The Jacksonville State Gamecocks are no stranger to the FBS level. They have pulled off some huge upsets over the past couple of seasons, including one against the Florida State Seminoles, and have consistently been one of the best programs that the FCS ranks have seen over the past couple of seasons. And now they make that jump to the FBS level as a new member to Conference USA. And this is a team that, hey, while you do need some things to improve, and of course making the jump is fairly difficult, Jacksonville State is well equipped to handle the FBS level. Can Jacksonville State surprise and be a contender in Conference USA this season, or is this going to be a team that's going to need to take some time adjusting to the FBS level as a full-time member? What's up, Tailgaters? My name is Tailgate Nate. Welcome to my channel, previewing, predicting, and analyzing all 133 FBS level college football teams, and the final day of team-by-team predictions is finally here. Make sure you hit the subscribe button, ring the bell so you hear my thoughts during the season, as well as a couple wrap-up things before the season actually starts. We only got 11 days before the season starts. Can you guys believe that? It is crazy. I promise there's going to be a lot more content coming out after this one, but there is more than that you can do to help support my channel. Hey, you're doing one way right now by watching the video. You can do more by liking, commenting, sharing, and anything else you guys may be willing and able to do to help me support my channel. How do we do things around here? We're going to go through a roster overview and look at who the team lost, who's coming back, and who's coming in through the transfer portal and recruiting class, as well as taking a look at the 2023 Jacksonville State football schedule, and we will give it a game-by-game preview and prediction. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I give you your Jack State Gamecocks in 2023. Let's start out with the quarterback room. You are going to be losing a depth piece in the quarterback room this season, and Aaron McLaughlin did play in 8 games last year, but only threw 22 passes, only 149 yards last season. So your starter from last season in Zion Webb does come back. Had 1,737 passing yards, only 10 touchdowns to 9 interceptions. Zion Webb definitely has a lot to improve at the quarterback position, especially when you consider some of the quarterbacks that have come before him at Jack State. So he's definitely going to need to improve that play. Only around a 55% completion percentage there as well. So if he can improve, maybe he's the answer. But you are getting a Power 5 transfer into this program. Enter Logan Smothers. Big Ten fans, you're probably going to know that name. Cornhusker fans, you're definitely going to know that name. He was a former Nebraska Cornhusker. Did have a little bit of playing time during his time in Lincoln. Definitely some of it was good, some of it was bad, but he could be the answer at quarterback for this Gamecock team if Zion Webb has not shown, in my opinion, some substantial improvement. Let's take a look at the running back room now, as you are going to be losing a couple key guys out of this position grouping as well. Matt LaRoche is going to be gone, had 627 yards and 5 touchdowns for the team last season. Pat Jackson is also a name that is going to be gone as well. Only 102 yards, but 5 touchdowns for him last season. So you do lose 2 pretty key guys, but your leading rusher on the team does come back. That was Anwar Lewis, 818 yards and 8 touchdowns for the team last season. And then Ron Wiggins is back as well, 461 yards, 4 touchdowns for him last year. My apologies, read the wrong stat line for Matt LaRoche. LaRoche, 627 yards, 5 touchdowns for him last season. But Lewis, Wiggins, 2 very good running back options coming back. Zion Webb was the team's second leading rusher last year. Did have 13 rushing touchdowns, so he can really prove that he can do it on the ground as well. Just needs to improve that passing ability, as I said before. And for Jacksonville State, you do get a transfer coming into this program. Malik Jackson is over from the University of Louisiana Monroe. So he's out of the Warhawk program and in to the Gamecock program. Wide receiver room, I really only could find one loss here, and that was the likes of Ahmad Edwards. He had 248 yards and a lone touchdown for him last season. Again, the passing attack not super dynamic last season, but you do return quite a bit in this wide receiver room. Sterling Galvin, PJ Wells, Perry Carter, Michael Petway, all very good options, and then you get a lot of transfers in to help give this wide receiver room a lot of depth, and it could prove to be one of the deepest and best wide receiver rooms Conference USA has to offer. Jamari Joyner, Dallin Wright, Quentin Lane, I believe among some others, are transferring in. In the tight end room, Sean Brown does come back, was the team's second leading receiver last season. And then on the offensive line, couldn't really find any notable losses, but you get 2 huge get-backs on the offensive line. That's Traylon Brown and Will Osteen, as well as some other guys, in my opinion, most notably Clay Webb. So there is quite a bit of returning talent. offensively, so could look to be a pretty solid offense for the Gamecocks here in 2023. Now let's move over to the defensive side of things, right? When you take a look at the defensive line, well, there are going to be your notable losses on this side of the football, but your defensive line, hey, everybody comes back here. Chris Hardy, Jalen Swain, Jeff Marks, Jackson Luttrell, Javarius Hoskins, Chuck Taylor, and among many others there as well. So definitely going to be a really good, really stacked up defensive line for the Jacksonville State Gamecocks. They may be one of the best units that Conference USA has to see on the defensive line this season. Some really, really good players coming out of this position grouping. 5.5 sacks for Chris Hardy last season. Jalen Swain had 5 sacks of his own. This is a team that generated a lot of sacks, especially on the defensive line last season. That's going to continue here in 2023 with all that they return on the defensive line. In the linebacker room, you do lose a couple pretty nice key players here. You are going to lose Stavante Tulis, who was your second leading tackler last season. Did have half a sack and an interception in there as well. And then Markel Benton is going to be gone there as well. Was another top 5 tackler for this team. 2.5 sacks. Pretty good player in it of his own right. However, Lelatia Hale, probably pronounced that last name wrong, I apologize. Larry Hale and Curly Young will be returning to this linebacker room. Curly Young, kind of a linebacker, defensive line, the kind of a linebacker and the defensive line combo type player. And then Quay Drake is a transfer that enters this program, should see a boost to this linebacking room. And when you take a look at the defensive back room, well, your leading tackler is going to be gone. That was Fred Perry, so that's a big loss there. Deco Wilson, Yul Gowdy, and Kawan McCray are all some pretty notable losses for this secondary. However, you do get some pretty key guys coming back. Jeremiah Harris and Colby Fuqua were both top 5 tacklers for this team last season. And then you also get Jamari Jemison, as well as some other guys back, and even a transfer coming over in Alex Ambush that should see some big minutes for the secondary here for Jacksonville State. Your head coach, Rich Rodriguez. Your offensive coordinator is Rod Smith. And your defensive coordinator is Zach Alley. As now we will take a look at the Gamecock football schedule for 2023. Hey, any game at home is going to be underlined. Well, any game on the road will be in italics or that slanted text. Any game you see in green is a game I think the Gamecocks going to be able to win fairly easily. Any game in yellow is a game that, all right, might be 50-50 back and forth, maybe upset bid, potential type game, but the Gamecocks going to be able to win, and red is a loss. You start out your year week 0 against the UTEP Miners, and this, I think, is going to be a very interesting matchup. Again, guys, this matchup is only 11 days away. Can you believe it? But previewing this game here, Gavin Hardison is coming back at the quarterback position. He returns quite a bit, if not everybody, in that wide receiver room. Yes, there are a couple of running back options there that are gone, and the defense left some to be desired last year. They're going to look for a boost in the right direction this season. But when I look at this UTEP Miner team, compare it to this Jacksonville State defense, this defensive line should be able to get pressure and generate some sacks on Gavin Hardison. However, I do believe that the passing attack, the shots that Gavin Hardison are going to be able to make will outweigh the pressure that Jacksonville State is going to be able to get in that. It's going to be able to negate the pressure that Jacksonville State will generate from its defensive line. Gavin Hardison does too much, and Jacksonville State loses their FBS opener there in week 0 to the UTEP Miners. However, you should get your first win against East Tennessee State. So maybe might not be a super easy win. They are one of the better programs in the FCS ranks. Maybe a little bit of a familiar opponent for Jacksonville State here, but I do think that they're going to be able to win this game fairly handily. Even if the game is close, they could pull away there towards the end of this one. You got to go on the road to against what I believe to be one of the best teams in Group of 5, my apologies, this season in the Coastal Carolina Chanticleers. Even though a new head coach is coming in Tim Beck, and the defense, might not have the star power it has had in previous seasons. Grayson McCall is coming back. He's got one of the best skill position groups the Sun Belt Conference has to offer. That will be a loss for the Jacksonville State Gamecocks there on the road. And then you get your bye week here. You get your bye week right before you have to play Eastern Michigan again. One of 2 bye weeks because you played in week 0. You get 2 of them. you do get a week of preparation for this Eastern Michigan team, and this Jacksonville State defensive front may be able to hang with one of the best running backs the Mid-American Conference has to see in Samson Evans, but I think that Samson Evans and this Eastern Michigan defense going to prove to be a little bit too much. Again, Jacksonville State is going to need to try to improve that quarterback position play, whether that be Zion, maybe Logan Smothers ends up stepping in there as well. Either of those guys do definitely have a lot to prove in Eastern Michigan. With Samson Evans, I think they're going to be able to get through that defensive front, be able to get into the Gamecock secondary and go for some big plays, and that Eastern Michigan defense holds up its end of the bargain as well. So that I do have as a loss for the Gamecocks. However, hey, maybe a familiar time here. You got the two newbies to the FBS ranks. Sam Houston State is going to be Jacksonville State's next opponent here in Week 5. And I do think you go on the road and win this one. Sam Houston's got a lot of, has definitely got a lot of things to sort out as well. Now, this used to be a powerhouse in the FCS. And I say used to be, obviously, because they're not in the FCS anymore. But they did win an FCS national title back in 2020. So when you take a look at the Sam Houston State team, there definitely is a lot to like, but there is a ton that needs to improve. I think with the defensive line of Jacksonville State and some of the returning pieces that they have offensively, it'll be a little bit too much for the Bearcats to handle. So the Gamecocks win that game there in Week 5. But I do have you losing on the road to the Middle Tennessee Blue Raiders. This is a Middle Tennessee team that returns a ton of talent defensively, and even though there is a lot of overhaul going on the offensive end, I do think that defense alone is going to be enough to slow down Jacksonville State, going to be able to make the Gamecocks feel uncomfortable, and that will be a home victory for Middle Tennessee, which means it is a road defeat for Jacksonville State. You got two really tough games coming up next. At home against Liberty, I think is going to be a loss. The Liberty Flames have, in my opinion, one of the better coaches in the nation now. And Jamie Chadwell proved that he could do it at Coastal Carolina, put together a very successful run there in Conway. And he's hoping to do the same for this Liberty team that, has a lot of roster overturn. There is a lot of very nice talent leaving that program, but what is coming into the program is very, very good as well. Liberty should be one of the best teams in Conference USA this season. That'll be a loss. And then Western Kentucky will be a loss as well. Yes, Jacksonville State probably is going to be able to create some pressure on Austin Reed and may be able to slow down this passing attack of Western Kentucky just from the amount of pressure that this defensive line is going to be able to create. But Austin Reed, wide receiver in Corley, they're just too dynamic. I don't see Jacksonville State, or anyone for that matter, slowing them down in Conference USA. That is a win for the Western Kentucky Hilltoppers. But now you do have a road game here against the Florida International Panthers. And the Panthers, I just think, are going to have a very, very poor season. That's a team that lost a ton of talent through the transfer portal, including a lot that could help it in Conference USA play this season. Florida International is just a team that, again, may sit towards the bottom of the ranks in the FBS. Again, you did lose a lot of good talent to the transfer portal. Jacksonville State returns too much, and even though it is a road game, maybe the Panthers can keep it close. The Gamecocks should walk away with a win. They're on the road against FIU. You do get a little bit of extra prep time before you have to go on the road and play a Power 5 opponent in South Carolina. Another school that dons the Gamecock mascot. But I think South Carolina is being underestimated by some people this year. Yeah, there are a lot of key pieces gone, but I think with Spencer Rattler there, Coach Beamer's done a phenomenal job there. I think South Carolina continues to grow. Nonetheless, Jacksonville State has pulled off upsets like this before, so we will see how close this game is, but I do think it ends up being a Gamecock win either way you slice it. Yes, I know, very bad joke. I think South Carolina will be winning that game. Then you do get your second bye week of the year before you have to play Louisiana Tech at home. And I think the Bulldogs are going to be a much improved team from last season. There is a ton returning on that offense, as well as a very experienced quarterback in Hank Bachmeier entering that program. And while the defense is going to need to fill some holes, I still think it's going to be pretty good this year. So that is a loss for the Jacksonville State Gamecocks. But then on the road against New Mexico State, there are some very nice returning pieces to that Aggie offense. But I think Jacksonville State, with all that they return on the defensive front, going to be able to get pressure. They're going to be able to stop the run, and this Jacksonville State offense will have plenty of things worked out and kinks fixed and everything like that to be prepared for this game. So that is a win to cap off your season. maybe not the best record for Jacksonville State is in their first season as an FBS team. However, this team could definitely surprise and be a bowl eligible team, even though, again, making that that FCS to FBS transition, you can't necessarily go to a bowl game. But for Jacksonville State, 4-8 is what I got for this team, but I do think this team is really, really well equipped long-term to handle life in the FBS. Let me know what you guys think about the Gamecocks in the comments section below, and as always, remember to play hard, but tailgate harder. See you guys in the next video.